to start things off between these two players over on Blackburn, spawning in the bottom right, representing the Shopify Rebellion. It is Scarlett.
In the bottom left side this time of Blackburn, we're looking at the main base of our Chinese Terran player, seen by many as the best Chinese StarCraft 2 player of all time. It is time.
It really is. Like, honestly, when I think of Chinese players throughout the ages, and I mean, this goes as far back as Lona making second place in that BlizzCon one time, the Invitational. I think Time, as far as Chinese players go, he's the one that's truly shone. He's gone up against some of the very, very best and pushed them to the absolute limit.
You were at that BlizzCon, weren't you, Ben?
I was at that BlizzCon, Kev.
You lost to Whitera?
No, I lost to Maka Prime. And Luffy, I'll never forget getting cheated.
Why? What happened?
Oh, mate, this is a story. Okay.
Well, we'll keep a close eye. I don't see any SCVs leaving the main base of Time, so give me the story.
Okay, so I was proxy 2-rexing him, killed his hatchery, was literally on the brink of him leaving the game.
Yeah.
And the whole venue paused out, like the internet stopped working. And so all the screens stopped and stuff. And we're all told, like, to stay in your chairs and stay seated and stuff. And, like, obviously people start walking around. And while I'm there, like, just kind of sat chatting with the admin and stuff, and this is when I'm actually stood to the side, Luffy came over and looked at my PC screen while the game was paused, and then went over to his PC and turned it off. And then there was no rewind from replay, and I was like, and there was no replay because he technically disconnected from the game. And so the admins were like, you have to replay because we didn't know what happened. And I was fuming, Kev. And then I ended up losing 2-0 because I was so angry. And like they went over to him like, what did you do? And he's like, oh, I didn't know what was happening, blah, 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 blah. Because they needed a translator. But never felt so cheated in my life, Kevin. Never, ever, ever.
That was esports in 2010, guys.
Yeah,
that's a long
11
time
years,
ago.
11 years. Then I lost to Maka Prime 2-1. It was like the start of the Blue Flame Hellion drop build. And that was the first time I saw it.
It's amazing how you still remember the tiny details of those games.
Absolutely, absolutely. But Blackburn to get us going here. Very, very standard openings from both of them. Scarlett going for the, the vertical bases. Absolutely normal for her. Nothing too crazy like not taking a gold. That would be suicide. And on the other side of things for Time, does look like he's going to be going for a 3cc build. No second guess on the way. So yeah, as standard can be.
Yep, Scarlett is apparently very fond of this map, or at least somewhat fond of it compared to some of the other options.
Ooh.
He has a Zerg player, Reaper drops a grenade, Reaper gets the Crypto, and Reaper gets out of there. Solid start here for Time. It's actually kind of tricky to get that first Crypto when it's up a ramp.
You should never be able to do that. Like Scarlett, the Lings were out of position there, and honestly that slows down creep spread a lot. And we've seen how prevalent it is in this match already today.
What do you think that Scarlett sees on Blackburn that she prefers over the other options that you could potentially play, like an Oxide or maybe Beckett if you feel really wild?
I think it's the fact that it's actually kind of hard to attack. And like one of her, greatest assets and always has been is her creep spread. Mm-hmm. And if you get that going, it can be kind of nice. But I think Jess kind of nailed it a little bit earlier. We all saw this as a Terran map because it can be nice if you get to that late game situation. But, Zergs don't tend to do too bad on this. It's one of the maps that I see Clem lose when he plays this matchup.
I think the main reason why I love the Zerg set early on that it's a Terra map is just because they feel mech is very good in this map. At least that was Reyna's main argument. He said if the mech player plays correctly, it's almost unbeatable in this map.
There is also at the 12 o'clock position an Ultralisk statue, Kevin, which is a big signal for it being a pretty good Zerg map. I remember Gabe when he was first reviewing this map, he looked at that and he was like, oh, it's a Zerg map, isn't it? Like, that's it. It's done and dusted. And that's when he started worrying about the map system or the map lineup that we had. But yeah, it turns out that it's actually a map that I think most racers don't mind this too much, honestly. All right, so it will be the Viking into Liberator. And Scarlett seeing that it's no add-on that starport, very often it is going to be the Liberator afterwards or a medevac. So she has to keep her eyes open and just be careful because now that Viking will deny any overlords on the map.
Yeah, it's very important not to get too carried away with the droning, and I actually kind of like to see Scarlett firing up a couple of Lings in this phase. Now, right when I say that, she does fire up 6 additional drones. One of the Queens is starting to run a little low on HP. We've seen too many TVZs lately, and before they ever even truly began. Where if you underestimate the power of the initial Marines with Stim, 1 or 2 medevacs showing up, that obviously shouldn't happen at this level, but saw it happen even earlier today in a different tournament, Benjamin.
We certainly did. We certainly did. So far, so good for both of them, though. Scarlett is resuming that creep spread after getting the first one denied, and, you know, it's spreading like wildfire here. And the following for Time, you won't be going for that mech that Reyna's talked about being kind of nasty on this map, but, you know, Time is one of the better bio players out there. You know, when you've got that kind of weapon in your utility belt, you don't want to kind of forgo it, really.
Scarlett's actually getting a couple of sport crawlers now. It's not going to be super useful immediately. It's kind of nice to have a sport crawler. If there's a liberator being annoying, you can move them around, maybe get a couple of shots off. Or sometimes if there is too much happening, the Terran players can accidentally siege it up. I like how quick Scarlett was there with the unburrow of the sport.
She was nippy. Like, you know, the liberator didn't position or anything. This Viking, by the way, this is, I believe it's 3rd or 4th Overlord kill so far, so definitely been worth its weight in gold here. Upgrades do start for Time as well. That is a fast 1-1. And so far, haven't really been able to tell what Scarlett's going for, but fast bailing speed and then double Evo starts.
I mean, 3 Overlord kills. Ooh. May even get a 4th one here. Yeah, that's actually quite big. You don't see that very often. That brings us back to the days of Polt versus Jaedong over and over again. There are Queens that are going to try to save this Overlord, and they will succeed in doing so. So not going to be 4 Overlord kills. It will stay at 3. At the same time, though, now the Queens are quite far out of position. We've got a double drop heading into the main base, and Scarlett seems a little bit out of position. With that only links, it's going to be incredibly difficult to engage these Marines that are tucked between the spawning pool and the hatchery.
I tell you what, though, that Spore Crawler's doing a good job. Takes down one of the medevacs, but oh my goodness, Kevin. So many Hellions roll into this 3rd base, and look at that supply. It does not lie.
I mean, Wardy mentioned this earlier today, where Scarlett sometimes seems to be having a hard time not being ultra far behind, just 9-10 minutes into a ZVT. We all know that she's perfectly capable of playing a late game at a very high level. You look at the supplies here, it's 112 supply against 76. Time is 15 workers ahead, that's ridiculous. If it was the other way around, I'd be like, oh yeah, anything is still possible with Terran. This is a win. When you're looking at TVZ like this and you're looking at these numbers, I have a hard time imagining Scarlett turning this one around.
This is a whitewash, Kevin. It really is. 123 supply, 65 workers, faster upgrades, and you know, these pushers, they're not going to slow down anytime soon. We've seen that from Time. His tempo, his ability to just be on the map and just be very suffocating, it's extreme.
It's all that Viking. That Viking pulled all the Queens out of position. Scarlett was a little bit busy trying to keep one Overlord alive. While that happened, the double drop shows up, and by the time Scarlett is ready to somewhat take care of the double drop, that's when the Hellions dove in there, and they were able to fry 12 drones in no time. And this gold base seems to be unsavable. I mean, we don't really have any banelings. There are a lot of Queens here, but the Queens can't really take this fight. I don't even really want to see Scarlett try to save this hatchery. She drops 1 or 2 transfusions, which I'm a little bit confused about, because it was clearly never enough to keep it alive, but at the same time, I guess it bought some time. That's the only thing you can really make out of it.
Yeah, but no additional 4th base going up. Like, that was it. Now Time, he's going to be moving on to 4 bases by himself, and he's so far ahead here, Kevin. Like, this Time has just been strangling Scarlett out of this game. He's moving on to the much latter stages, getting up to 8 barracks as well. And, oh, Scarlett, that's a bit of a blunder there. Moving out with the Queens and not the Lings and Banes that were right there. Great focus fire by Time. Holy crap.
Yep, there are a couple of extra Banelings coming in, but Time gets the majority of those too. In the end, he is forced to pick up, but that's obviously not everything. The reinforcements have arrived in the bottom side of the map, and normally you want to be a bit careful stepping this deep onto creep. Time doesn't really give a damn, because he knows he just picked off a couple of Queens, he picked off a hatchery, picked off the majority of the Banelings that Scarlett had to begin with. And this is always a win-win, because if Scarlett somehow has enough units here to take care of that army, that obviously means her economy is weak, and if she doesn't have enough units to take care of it, that means he's just going to win the game.
Yeah, it's spiraling, right? Like, Time, after getting those kills, that harass done, all the lack of mining, and here Scarlett's using a whole army, but the 4th base is going to go down. A great splits by Time. These Banelings do get some connections, but any trade like this is just a decent one for Time. And Scarlett's supply, she's below 100. Can't get the gold base rolling either. Time's over there. It's got to be said, he's even moving on to his 5th base here, Kev. And he's taken his own gold safely. This is not how TVZ is meant to go.
To put things in perspective, and if you're wondering how badly has Time been dictating the pace of this game, take a look at Scarlett's vision. Scarlett never even saw the 3rd base. He never even saw the 4th base, of course, either. And that's not because he doesn't know they're there. She obviously knows that they're there. But it's just Time is so in her face that she can't find the units, can't find the APM at this point to even send anything to the other side of the map and potentially pick up a couple of SCVs. The writing is on the wall for the first one. GG gets called. Time takes the 1-0 lead in our deciding series of the day. But The good news for all the Scarlett fans is, in my opinion, that A, the next 2 maps are going to be a little bit better, and B, the next 2 maps are going to be on a better server for Scarlett. The first game in this best of 3 favored time when it came to the ping. Obviously, we wish we had offline tournaments, guys. It's still not quite possible with the pandemic raging around. But Game 2 and Game 3 are going to be on a better server for Scarlett. So in a weird way, you can say that Time was always supposed to win this game. Best map, best server. It will only get harder for him from here on out.
That's a good point you make, because before you said that, I was like, oh gosh, Time is just looking bigger, faster, stronger in every possible way. Like, this was a fairly regular build that he did, and Scarlett wasn't prepared at all. I gotta say, that double drop that he did in the main in this bailing snipe, it was a little bit unorthodox, but Time is just playing really well. Like, even when he loses, like that game on Romanticide against Dark, he's just looking like he's displaying world-class TVZ.
Yep. I mean, there's a reason why he gets a lot of props, right? And compliments from some of the finest European pros out there.
Yeah.
If Gabe speaks highly about you, well, then you're good.
Then you are good, because, you know, there's not many people that beat Gabe where he still talks nicely about them. It's a very, very small list, but Time is one of them. And we're seeing today that he's playing very strong in this particular matchup. And this is the one as well that we don't really get to see him in a hell of a lot. Like, his TVP obviously has to be strong because you come out of the Chinese region.
Yep.
And so does his TVT. Like, beating players like Coffee, it's no super easy feat. And we saw that he took out Gabe last season finals, and Gabe's a beast in TVT. It's just nice to see that he's pretty damn all-round when it comes to what matchups he's strong in. And I think that question mark that we had about Time going into this tournament, it's kind of answered, man. He's looking real fierce.
Yep. Sometimes you are a bit afraid to hype Time up too much, because then suddenly he loses in a relatively one-sided manner. You're like, I thought it was better. And then you hear through the grapevines like, oh yeah, Time hasn't played a single game in the last 2 months. You're like, oh my goodness, could I have not known this before we said how good this guy can be? I'm kind of smiling because you mentioned like Gabe giving out compliments. Once upon a time there was a fun 2v2 tourney that somehow I had the pleasure, the luxury of teaming up with Gabe. And we actually did really well. We had a nice little run, we made it into the semifinals. And 2v2 was all about building Hellions and Phoenixes, right? And at one point Gabe said like, yeah, you're not too bad at the Phoenix stuff. That's probably the best compliment I've ever received in my life, Benjamin.
You know, I've played against Gabe and like I've lost against him, or rather I've beat him now and then. It's been a long time to be honest, but when he complimented my F2 usage, I was like, okay, that's got a bit of a sting to it, but it's also, it's beautiful, it's beautiful. Anyhow, getting into the second game of the series, currently 1-0 up in the bottom right on Lightshade. It is Kaizi's time.
And that obviously means that in the top left side, we're looking at the main base of our Canadian Zerg player representing the Shopify Rebellion. This is Scarlett.
Lightshade, definitely a better map for Zerg players, it's got to be said.
It's the exact same thing as earlier today, man. We kick things off on Blackburn, and obviously Time gets a relatively one-sided victory. Game 2 is going to be played on Lightshade, a better map for Zerg, and also a map where Scarlett was in a more than playable position. I actually think you can almost go as far to say that was a must-win for Scarlett, because at one point he was up in army, even in upgrades, up in bases, way up in map vision, denying the fourth base of Time as well, dealing economic damage. It really felt that there weren't too many things that could go wrong anymore, but it really goes to show as well how good Time is. I mean, sometimes maybe even call him a little Chinese Clem, man. That kid is dropping everywhere at once, and he's actually looking at his drops too. He's microing each and every single army that he's got out and about on the map. It's really fun stuff.
It feels like he took, you know, I will always remember you talking to Show about never do one thing alone, always do two things at once. It really felt like Time kind of amplified that, and he's like, you know what, do three things at once, because that really feels like what he's doing. And that, like the last game, it was the Liberator in one base, the Hellions in the third, and the drop in the main. In that game against Scarlett as well, that's when he started getting magic done. It was the Liberator again in one base, drop in the top, drop in the south. Just, it is all about tempo for Time in this matchup.
And it's fun as well when you see like a Viking go down. You're like, oh no, I almost got 4 Overlords, doesn't quite get it. But that Viking was the absolute MVP, because if all these queens are in the main base or they're at the third, then they are doing what they are supposed to be doing. And then Time might get that Overlord, but what he won't get is all those extra drone kills. And those drone kills are, of course, way more valuable. We'll see how Game 2 plays out. It's do or die at this point for Scarlett, where they awesome run at the last season finals, making it out of a very difficult group back then in summer. A group with Trap, Lambo, and...
It was Trap, Lambo...
Dream?
It was Dream, yeah. Dream came first out of that group.
So So that was obviously awesome. We got a lot of people hyped, and Scarlett took the 2-0 lead over Inno. We all got super hyped as he was winning game 3. We're like, oh my goodness, he still got it. And unfortunately, Inno did get the reverse sweep on her, but it was good to see that Scarlett is still capable of messing it out or duking it out with the very best out there. So he's going to have to step it up here in the deciding best of 3 of our 3rd day.
Yeah, they're both going for different openings than they did on the last game on Lightshade, where Scarlett went for that gas pool situation and kind of got an early lead against Time because of it, where I think Time thought something else was happening, like some road regression or what have you. But here, both going for the super standard. Scarlett kind of, I don't think she played bad at all on Lightshade. In fact, she was ahead, as you said, but they're both playing far more normal here. Time also not going for the 2-1-1 opening that he did.
I feel like almost everything was going well in their best of 3 early today until the Widow Mines started finding a little more damage than they were supposed to, and it's very hard to clean up Widow Mines if you weren't ready for them in the first place, and by the time you do that, there is a Liberated Siege up in a different base, and you're not just losing drones, but you're losing mining time left, right, and center, often at your most crucial bases as well. But I'm happy to see that everything is very standard so far. Scarlett, her queen count is just going up. One happy little Zergling trying to get a sneak peek into the main base. Does not quite get it. I like the effort.
So this is a very similar build that Time did against Dark on Oxide, where he gets that cloak very late. He might not even get it here. It might be like a very greedy build where he just gets a safety Banshee just to hang out, maybe below his 3rd or something at the triangular location, just to be safe. And if he goes into very fast 2 extra barracks here along with 2 engineering base, he's going to have a very big scary amount of bio very quickly, because it is a bit of a greedy build from him.
Scarlett is already getting a Baneling Nest, so that's good to see. We have a single Spore Crawler going down at this point as well.
It's cool. It's a cool opening, because this used to be kind of the thing that all Terrans used to go for a long time ago, kind of when Serral started getting really good, but okay, the first Hellions won't get anything on here. That's nice.
So it's just that single Banshee, huh? It's just a single Banshee. We have a couple of Queens in position. Scarlett gets quite a few shots off on this Banshee immediately. That's great news for her. I'm a little bit surprised that it was Baneling Nest before Lair Attack, and we also don't have any Evo Chamber, so we're still going to get relatively quick Lair in the end, and it obviously means quicker access to Baneling speed, but that does also obviously mean that Scarlett, her upgrades are going to be a little bit later on the links and things.
It might have been one of those things where she was worried about like a Banshee Hellbat attack.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was. So just to have quick access to Banelings if you need it. If you don't need it, no biggie. Let's not spend any additional resources.
Yeah, and it's got to be something like that, right? Because, yeah, you don't want to get caught out. Like, her life is on the line here. She's down 1 map, and that would be her tournament life right there and then. Double Evo on the way for Scarlett. It does signify that she's going to go for Ling Bane here, and the fast upgrades do begin, which is nice for her. And she's, it's bang on time with Time's upgrades, so there isn't going to be an upgrade lead for either one of them.
Scarlett, her crew spread is really getting out of there, and of course we do have that 4th hatchery going up in the top side. Wouldn't even hate a potential double hatchery going down in the near future. So far, this is not the kind of game that I think as a Zerg you can ever be upset about. I hope those Banelings don't try to blow up on the debris. We don't have too many Banelings to begin with. Oh, look at that. 5 extra barracks being planted down at this point. Ooh. 1 or 2 have been built a while ago. Those 3 extra barracks, they're going down real quick.
I'm a little surprised that he planted them here on the 3rd, because that is a big signal that your opponent is going to go full 2-2 push. So heavy. I'm not sure if it's going to be Widow Mines or just pure tanks. Normally you just go for pure tanks when you do this, but this is an 8 racks. It's going to be an all-in from Time. Obviously you can transition out of it, but it's a very aggressive build that he's going for.
Yep. It's very important for Scarlett to potentially get a single Zergling into the 3rd, and he is getting that single Zergling in there. Does not see all 3 barracks, but he just spotted 2 out of 3. So hopefully that gives Scarlett a heads up of what he's dealing with.
Nice bit of creep denial by Time here. I love the fact they plonked that tank on the high ground as well, just to make it a little bit dangerous here. But this is also nice by Scarlett, knowing that Time's a little bit pinned here in the center of the map. Going for that run by, but keeping over a few Hellions. That was nice positioning by Time.
Yep, unit retention can be very useful here in StarCraft 2. At this point, Time has killed 41 units and has lost 1. How often do you see that?
You don't see it very often, and some big upgrades are coming in now for Time. He's getting that combat shield along with the +1/+1, and this bio army will be a lot scarier. That being said, Scarlett kind of posturing a little bit aggressively here, and Time does see it, so neither one is going to catch the other 2 off guard.
We do have our 4th command center going down now. Maybe the Queens. Do we have high ground vision here? A single overload would be lovely. We're getting high ground vision from the creep, I guess, as Lynx and Banes are going to try to connect with the bio. Some really good target fire there by the Marines in the center. Scarlett, her supply is still looking all right, but my goodness, he lost a lot of Lynx and Banes there.
Oh, she certainly did, and it's just the Queens holding on strong. The transfusions are good, but can she hold on? There are going to be a swell of Lynx coming in here, but 2-2 hasn't started for her either, and I mean, the Queens do hold on really well, actually. Yeah. Nice play by Scarlett.
And at the same time, we've got a couple of Lynx and Banes on the bottom side of the map. Can these Banelings find what they're looking for? And they're looking for SCVs, a lot of them, and they will find them. My goodness, talking about a turn of momentum there, where it looked like Scarlett was in a bit of trouble. She had a lot of money in the bank, was able to spend that money without losing all her Queens, and then find 17 SCVs on the other side of the map.
That absolutely keeps her more than in the game, Kev, because that is a big reset for Time's economy. I know he's got the 4th on the way and such, but I actually thought he was going to clean them up. When I saw the Marines there ready stimming, I was like, oh, he's got this right. But the Banelings, they did what they needed to do, and that is nice. It buys Scarlett quite a bit of time.
What we can say, though, is that the next fight in the center is going to have to go a lot better for Scarlett, because this time the army gets even bigger. And if Time gets another phenomenal fight, I do not believe there's going to be any stopping the army. This time we see a couple of Baneling connections. They're all right, but I love how many Marines Time is hiding behind those side blockers. That actually makes it kind of hard for Scarlett to figure out whether or not she should really go for it, or if she should stick around in the first place.
Super hard for Scarlett, and the Queens have way less transfusions here. She will snipe down the Banshee, which has been a thorn in her side, given that the Ling of Bane can't shoot upwards, but look at that. She's going for Lurkers. It's definitely a risky move and going for later, but if she can get to it, that would definitely help her out so much.
And the tank just keeps staying around as well, right? That's very well done by Time. It seems like he just keeps on picking it up and has even repaired it. 2-2 upgrades are about to finish up 4 times. Scarlett is still quite far off of her 2-2 upgrades. This time there isn't that much creep to work with anymore. If you take a look at the minimap, you can see a lot of units running in the top right side. So it seems like Scarlett just wants to buy some time with a potential big counter-attack. We can still cancel the Morphic Planetary and lift it, but you're gonna have to lift it real soon, Time. That's exactly what he does.
That's nice by Scarlett, just denying that, but those Banelings, they can't run in without Zerglings like that. She does pick off the tank at the high ground, which is really nice, and some decent detonations. That actually buys her a lot of time to get that creep spread going in that also crucial area. Like that creep, Time has cut through the middle of the map like a hot knife through butter.
Well, Time is also kind of what she needs. Scarlett is getting a little bit too ambitious, if you ask me, especially with Hive on the way. 2-2 upgrades still not quite done. They are finishing up now. We are going to get our first Hydras on the battlefield, and these Hydras can obviously morph into Lurkers. We all know that the Lurkers are not exactly the same Lurkers, if they don't have their Seismic Spines or the Adaptive Talents upgrade. But the first one is on the way.
Certainly is, certainly is. And going for the range upgrade, that usually means that you want to play, or you're trying to solidify, you're trying to get defensive. If you go for the speed one straight away, you're going for the killing blow. But I like her choice here, just to be a little bit defensive, still getting a lot of Banelings, and she got up to 88 drones amidst all this. Like, this isn't the game where Time's got the momentum. Like, it's a real battle. It's very close at this point.
Like, Time has done very well in some of these fights, which shows in the units lost that have gone down. Over 245 Zerglings going down. Not a single drone has been picked off. So if you're talking about cleaning up the defenses on Scarlett, her side, she's absolutely been doing that. Because we're almost 12 minutes into this game, and Scarlett has still not lost a single drone, while she's trying to get a few more SCVs. The last time she got 17, that's not good. Ooh. Actually, they turned around real quick. I thought there was one Baneling left, no?
I thought there was too, actually. But yeah, that little defense there by Time was better than the last one. And maybe that's the signal to get going. And here, he's going to start splitting up his army a little bit. We have drops at the south, drops in this army as well. And the Liberators, they have really been a thorn in Scarlett's side throughout the games against Time today.
Yep. The Queen count is still at 12 though, so the Queens can absolutely be tanky and maybe gun 1 or 2 of these Liberators down. We have a couple of Hydras out on the field, not too many. It's mostly about these Lurkers, but man, look at these Lurkers, they're getting great shots off. And I watch your stream a lot, and I feel most of the time when Bio runs into Lurkers that are ready to receive the Bio, it doesn't end well for the Bio.
No, and that's very often on my stream, Kevin. It's got to be said. It's like, okay, this is when the tempo of the game might change entirely. Because very often against Lurkers, running into those Lurkers, well, you got to be careful. You tend to want to be more defensive, because Lurkers, they're great at being defensive, but when you get attacking against those big ghost tank Liberator swells, it gets a bit tricky, and it looks like Time, he is getting ready for that switch.
Yep. We see 4 ghosts on the way. Personal cloaking is currently being researched. What I do kind of wonder is how is time going to go up to 5 bases? You think he's going to try to take the top right, or no, it seems like he's flying towards the bottom. Doesn't have too many units here. Look at them Queen soaking up a couple of these tank shots and picking off another Liberator. Scarlett is playing a very good game so far. This is arguably her best game of the day. If you ask me, more Banelings crashing into Marauders. The link count that's remaining is not that high, but at the same time, Banelings crashing into the third. It's not enough to kill the Planetary, but it is enough to pick off 14 additional SCVs. You gotta love this if you're a Scarlett fan.
Oh, more than love it, Kev. I mean, she has the superior economy. This is very Raynor-esque style, but losing all those queens, that wasn't the best trade for her, it's got to be said. She still has to be careful, but, you know, when you have a superior economy, you can throw away units, but Time is fighting back, man. He's a real brawler.
Yeah, Scarlett, her economy is better, so maybe some of these crazy trades are gonna favor her, but I do get a little bit worried when you see her lose 9 queens like that, because we know what Time is capable of with a couple of medevacts. And, well, now we have 18 Hydras on the way, so that's obviously gonna make our life a little bit easier in keeping some of these medevacts at bay.
Yeah, we're getting into a real different game here between these two. Like, the last one kind of stayed on the mid-game for a long time, whereas here, we're into that later echelon where we're probably going to have to see Time learn how to be defensive, and Scarlett's going to be the one being aggressive all over the map and trying to crack Time.
I do not believe that Time knows how to be defensive. No, this is not in him, man. That man loves to attack. He's always been attacking. Even in scenarios where he's up a base and 12 workers against the Protoss, you still see him moving out as he gets a phenomenal fight here, gets on top of these lurkers, defensive. That man doesn't know how to be defensive, man, and he gets a great fight here.
Oh, he certainly does. I think Scarlett got caught a bit off guard here, not realizing what was going on, and again, she's losing control of the game. I mean, the supplies are ridiculously close, but Time's army supply is definitely better and bigger. This was a nice defense, though, by Scarlett in the north side of the map.
Yep, because the start of that battle went absolutely atrocious. Scarlett really needs a couple of overseers. The Observer has shown us as well that one mine at the ramp has been there for so long. And if these mines fire more than once, you're just really taking a lot of unnecessary damage. Speaking of...
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's minus 30 Zerglings in a scenario where you really don't have to lose those 30 Zerglings.
Yeah, and I mean, that's vision as well. Now these ghosts can march forward. I mean, those lings, they could have all been Banelings and what have you. And look at this. That's so many lurkers morphing. That is value for Time. And oh my goodness, just like that, Kev. Just like that.
Time is a beast. The moment you said this man needs to learn how to play defensive, he stepped on creep, threw down a scan,